Hey there YouTube, this is sjm 4306. Sorry about the handheld nature of this video. I just have too many games to show in one shot. Anyway, so with Halloween coming up, I thought I'd do sort of a Halloween special with pretty much my favorite game series. It's pretty tied closely between this, Legend of Zelda, and Metroid. But anyway, Castlevania was probably, I think, the first game that I've ever played when I was a child. So it kind of held a special place in my heart. And anyway, so here I just want to go through my collection. So here we have the NES, the Castlevania 1, 2, and 3 series. So these are the originals and just really good, tough side scrolling challenge. Simon's Quest is a little bit too cryptic in terms of like you need to play with pretty much a lookup guide. You just can't play blind. You'll never finish the game, unfortunately. But other than that, these are solid games. Of the three, I actually like Castlevania 3 the most. Being able to switch between the characters with the different abilities, as that was sort of really revolutionary at the time. And then moving on, we have Super Castlevania 4, and this guy was on the SNES, and this is a solid game. They did a lot of revolutionary things. So going from the 8-bit graphics to the 16, they had all these neat scaling effects, and your character control was a lot better. Um, on these games, you pretty much had to commit once you jumped. You couldn't redirect yourself midair. So if you mistime a jump, you could easily suicide off the edge of a hole. But Super Castlevania 4, you could whip in all directions. You had really good control. Your character was quite a bit faster and more nimble. So I really like this game. Not too great at it, but it's still fun to play. Next up, we have, well, I'm missing one. We should have in between the SNES and the N64 Dracula X, but copies of that go for stupid amounts of money. And I bid, I think, $90 on one like a long time ago, and someone outbid me by like 5 cents. So it was something ridiculous. It was like pennies they outbid me on and won at the last minute. So I've been a bit sour on that. And looking at prices nowadays, it's like well into $150, $200 just for the cart. So yeah, I'm not going to spend that much. So next up is Castlevania 64. And this game is sort of meh. You could say I put an end label, a thermal printer label on the end so I can actually tell what it is when it's sitting on a shelf. Anyway, this game is okay. It's kind of a clunky platformer. They're trying to take it from the 2D to the 3D games at the time, and it sort of fell short. No pun intended. Literally, sometimes the platforming in this is really difficult, and the camera management and whatnot. But it's an okay game. Anyway, next up we have my favorite in the series. So we have Symphony of the Night. Actually, it's pretty close. It's probably tied between this and a game coming up. I'll show you in a second. But anyway, this guy set me back. I think I paid $40 for it, complete, obviously. And I got this, I don't know, probably like 7 or 8 years ago by now. And I love this game. I've beaten it probably about like 15 to 20 times. I've lost count, honestly. I used to actually play this every year. At the beginning of October, I'd start a game and I would beat it. Try to get as far as I could. I try to 100% as much as possible before the end of October. And this is a really fun game. Anyway, next up we have Castlevania Chronicles. I think I got this for about $40 too, and that was actually a good investment. This game, it's basically, I believe it's a remake of the first game in the series, pretty much, but obviously with better graphics. I played this a little bit. I'm not too crazy about it. It's okay, but just I really like the art on this one. But anyway, apparently these are pretty hard to find like complete like this, so they're pretty much rising in price. Actually, the black label of Symphony of the Night is also getting pretty pricey. Last I checked, these are like anywhere from $75 to $125 games, depending on condition. Anyway, next up, we have, I know a lot of people aren't as crazy about the PS2 Castlevania games, um, but they were actually okay. I like them. So we have Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness. And yeah, just the art. Look at the art on these. I love that. Just how good the front covers are. But anyway, played a bit of these. They're okay. They're 3D Castlevania games, but much better than Castlevania 64. Uh, but yeah, Curse of Darkness has interesting kind of weapon crafting system. Lament of Innocence has this weird fixed camera thing going on in a 3D environment, and it sometimes screws you over. But other than that, it's okay. And now we come to pretty much my favorite games in the series, other than Symphony of the Night, obviously. The Game Boy Advance games. So we have Circle of the Moon, which I believe was a launch game for the Game Boy Advance. We have Harmony of Dissonance and Aria of Sorrow. And I remember playing Harmony on the school bus. My friend bought it, and I remember playing it, and just in reference to the first game in the series, it's a huge upgrade. This was the second game in the series I actually ended up playing, and I was blown away by the graphics on a portable system and whatnot, because back then that was a big deal. Anyway, solid game. So Circle of the Moon is probably my least favorite of the three. It's pretty clunky. It's really annoying. Like, to run, you have to double tap the forward button, and that always trips me up. Like, it's not hard, but when you're in the heat of whipping something to death, you don't want to have to fumble with the controls just to get it to do what you want it to do. And the character's a little bit stiff, and it's meh. Music's pretty good though. Anyway, Harmony of Dissonance. Everyone kind of says that this is the worst game out of the three. And I disagree. I would say Circle of the Moon is pretty easily the worst game of the three, but they're all still good games, even not being the best. But Harmony of Dissonance is pretty interesting. A lot of people say it doesn't have great music. I actually kind of like the music. It's not as good as other Castlevania games, definitely. The graphics are kind of meh in terms of they chose a weird art style where everything is outlined by neon colors. But if you can look past that, the rest of the graphics look great. Interesting use of sub weapons and spell books. You can actually use a lot of random different magic, and it's fun to find when you get a new sub weapon or a new magic book what everything does. So that's pretty cool. Bosses are really cool in this game as well. And then Aria of Sorrow is my favorite, of the entire series, pretty much. Actually, I would say probably between Symphony and Aria, I would have to give it to Aria, just because I really like the soul collection system. Basically, everything you kill in the game, you can get a soul from, and they all have different drop rates. And once you get the souls, you can equip them, and they do different, they give you different abilities in the game, different, magic attacks, that kind of stuff. And it's just really fun. I've 100% of this game before, I believe once or twice. It did take me quite a while. I remember getting some of those souls that are really rare in the game. Literally took me hours of grinding just on top of playing the game itself, and I've maxed out my character stats and all. So I absolutely love this game. Just give you a quick look at the back of each of these. I love the artwork. I absolutely love it in these games. I really wish Konami would not be so stupid. I know from a business perspective, going into gambling machines and whatnot, going back to their roots, it makes more sense financially. But I just miss the days when they actually released games that weren't pachinko machines or microtransaction cell phone games. Anyway, ran over. So we go on to the DS line of Castlevania games, which are all really solid. I would say none of these are bad. So we start off with Dawn of Sorrow, which is pretty much a continuation right after the events of Aria of Sorrow. I think a year passes or something within the plot. Anyway, this is pretty good. This continues on with the the soul system. This is a bit larger of a game, I believe, in terms of this took me longer to beat. And the only thing that I can really fault this for, the music is awesome also, and the graphics are awesome. The only thing I can really fault this for is the stupid, you have to use a touchscreen when you get a boss down to like 10% or 5% health, you have to hurry up and enter like a seal to seal it and kill it permanently. And if you mess up, it'll regain like, I don't know, 20% of its health or something like that, and you got to beat it again. So that's really, really annoying to have to do when you're playing and your stylus is inside your Diaz. You have to, hurry up and pull it out and enter this stupid pattern in order to actually defeat the boss. But anyway, all the bosses are really creative, and if they just removed that portion, I would have been fine with that. Could definitely do without the seals. Anyway, next up we have Portrait of Ruin, and this game is really awesome. I like this. It has an interesting concept where you have two main playable characters, and you can control one and switch between the two, and they have um, different attacks, different abilities, different stats, different equipable items, all that kind of stuff, and it's really neat. Some of the puzzle elements that it derives from that, and also a lot of the Castlevania games, you're kind of stuck in the castle. This game actually branches out. There are different portraits inside the castle that you can go into, and they're pretty neat themes too. There's like a circus one. There's a like an Egyptian pyramid one. There's like 19th century Britain and all this stuff. They really went creative with this game. And the music is awesome. The bosses are awesome. I believe I got to the end of this game. I haven't beaten Dracula yet. I know I've had this game for something like, um, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and I haven't beaten it yet. There's just too many good games. I did actually go through and all the sub weapons I 100%ed. That took me quite a bit of grinding to get everything up to max stats. So that's kind of where I left off. I kind of got tired after doing all that. Anyway, next up we have Order of Ecclesia, and I know a lot of people either love this game or hate it. I don't know why they hate it. It's a solid game. Basically, they added multiple different areas. So there's like a central hub village, and from there you can actually go off to different sub areas, and they're actually really like unique and like new thought up areas. I actually really like them. Some of them are kind of linear, and they're just sort of to pass the time or to put random enemies in or whatever. But some of the areas are actually really good, and the once you get to the main castle, about halfway through the game, it's really good. So anyway, this one, the unique thing that they added was your weapons. You can equip each hand separately, as well as like a seal on your back. And between the three, they can give you like a special attack or just regular attacks. But each attack uses up some MP. So if you're spamming attacks, you can run out of MP and you can't attack for a little while. It'll take like 3 or 4 seconds for your MP to recharge. It's pretty quick, but in the heat of a battle, like with the boss, that could actually get you killed. So there's some skill and time management and well, magic management, I guess you could say, at play here. I really like all the different, they call them glyphs, which is basically the equivalent of the souls in the Sorrow series. But I really like this. I like the plot. It's pretty good. And the art and the music are spot on. The music I love in this game. Actually, for like all these games, I have the OST on, my iPod or my cell phone. I actually do listen to them just as background music. So anyway, we got that. We have Mirror of Fate, which is the Lords of Shadow, kind of, I guess you could say, like almost an offshoot. It's basically like the precursor to all these games it's supposed to be, but I don't know. It feels more God of War than Castlevania. It's more like hack and slash, and it's okay. I've beaten this twice, and this is actually a pretty short game, and I do kind of like the 3D-ish, like the 2.5D graphics that they gave this. Obviously, this being on the 3DS, it can display stereoscopic 3D, which is sort of a neat idea, but it's kind of gimmicky, and I left it off most of the time. But anyway, it's okay. I got this for cheap, so. And we have the only PSP Castlevania game that they released. And this was actually, I bought this brand new because I heard about this, I saw the trailers, and I really wanted it. So this is Dracula X Chronicles, which is basically a 2.5D remake of Rondo of Blood. And they got the graphics like spot on. The music is really good. Your main character is a bit slow and sort of lethargic in terms of his movements, can only whip forward. So it's sort of, they went back to sort of the original NES formula, but with better graphics and music, obviously. But anyway, cool thing about this is it actually has a copy, an unlockable copy of Symphony of the Night and the original Rondo built into the game that you can actually unlock while playing. So this is actually how I first played Symphony of the Night, because I couldn't afford, the PS1 version. I think I got this like when I was entering college or something, so I didn't have a lot of money to spend on games, but this helped me for quite a while. And you can see look, cute little UMD discs that were on the PSP. Anyway, beyond that, that's sort of where Castlevania died out. I mean, there were some more Lords of Shadow games that came out, which, as I already said, I'm not too crazy about, so I didn't really get any of them other than Mirror of Fate. So, sort of stinks, but Konami's been sitting on the IP and not really doing anything significant with it, other than they just announced a mobile game, which I'll give it a try, but I kind of hate microtransaction games. I really can't stand them. Anyway, the graphics on that look kind of really cheesy. They almost look borderline like Flash internet kind of game sort of thing. So, meh, maybe I'm being harsh on it, but anyway, beyond that, Iga actually released recently Bloodstained, which isn't a Castlevania game, but the only reason why I'm including this in here was this was a Kickstarter, and it was after he left Konami, because they basically didn't want to make any of his games anymore. So he left and he started his own company sort of thing, and they released this, and this took like 5 or 6 years to release. I actually kickstarted this. This is the only game I've ever kickstarted, just because it's basically the spiritual successor of Castlevania, so I had to support him. So I kickstarted this, and it took a hell of a long time, like years and years. I almost forgot about it, and it finally released earlier this year, actually. And even though this doesn't have the Castlevania moniker, they had to start a new IP called Bloodstained, I guess. This is actually a really solid game. And I actually do have, they came out with a companion, what was it called? Curse of the Moon, I think. It's a NES style, like 8-bit style mini game that came sort of as a pack-in with this. And I have that on my 3DS. I have the digital version because they gave me a key when I backed this. So I have that. That's also really good. I kind of do want to get a physical copy. They do have like a limited runs game physical copy that you can get, but they're kind of stupid expensive for what the game is. So I don't know. If I can find one for cheap, I will, but I'm not going to pay like $80 for a physical copy of that game. Anyway, this game is really good. This is on Switch. A lot of people, there's a lot of gossip and whatnot going around, and the Switch version is much worse than the Xbox or the PS4 version. No argument about that at all. But it's definitely playable. A lot of people try to make it sound like, look, you can't even play the game at all. No, it definitely is playable. It's just there's like a lot of frame drops. There's slowdown between loading between rooms. There are a lot of glitches, but none of them that I found so far are game breaking. Most of the glitches, like items, will kind of get stuck in the wall. Like not anything like that'll prevent you from beating the game, but just like hearts, well, flowers they have as their version of hearts that restore your MP will sometimes spawn like in the middle of a wall, or they'll get stuck and you'll have to kind of wait for it to fix itself. Other than that, I've had it crash a few times, but you just kind of deal with that by just saving often enough and you're kind of good to go. Anyway, there is a patch version now that it actually is much better. So if you want to get this game, unless you want the physical copy, you could just download it and get the patched version, because if you buy the physical copy, you're going to have to install the patch anyway. Okay, and I also have the, I basically paid the $100 backing level, so they gave me some extras along with the game itself. And so they gave me basically a music CD, a sort of like a little manual with some information and whatnot, strategy booklet they call it. 2 musical discs. They have the OST on them. I have not actually listened to this yet, so that'll be fun. And let's see. There we go. Some keychains. And I think this is a tattoo, like a water tattoo. But anyway, almost forgot. There's actually a little poster that came in with the Bloodstained box as well. Really nice artwork. I really like the Gothic artwork. Yeah, I know, it's sort of kind of a lot to pay for a game. I ended up paying $100, but it was not just about the game. I actually wanted to support the people who all these years have been producing these Castlevania games. So I really want more like Metroidvania style Castlevania games to be released, and hopefully the amount of money that they made, it was at one point the largest Kickstarter for a game, in terms of how much money they pulled in. So hopefully this gives us a sign to Konami to kind of get off their asses and fix their stuff, but and get back on making Castlevania games. But if not, at least we know Iga is doing something about it. Anyway, yeah, it's just about me rambling on almost half an hour, but I absolutely love Castlevania, if you couldn't tell by how many games I have in the series. But yeah. Well, I actually forgot to mention, well, this is just a quick look at my game collection. But I know I actually forgot to mention there was a mobile phone, like a random Java game. I forget what it was called. It's been years ago that I actually ended up buying. And I beat it. It's like a quick, mobile phone game. It's not very good. And I really wish I could remember it. If you guys know, put it down below. But yeah, it's just another one of the games in the series I have, but it's kind of insignificant. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this random video, and I guess happy Halloween. Hopefully I'll try to get this up before Halloween, if not on Halloween at the latest. But anyway, yeah, if you guys love the series, put a comment down below why exactly you like it, what your favorite game is. If you want to argue with my interpretation with some of these games, feel free to do so. I like actually discussing different Castlevania games. Different people have favorites and least favorites, and it's interesting to see why that is. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.